I have an old video from when my youngest daughter was about, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 years old. And you know that 4 or 5-year-old voice, right? It's adorable. Well, I'm filming myself. I'm practicing my golf swing, running back and forth, checking things, and she's off to the side. And at one point in the video, in that adorable 4 and 5-year-old voice, she says, Dad, can I try? Can I play with you? And without hesitation, I just barked at her, "No, Caroline, stay over there. Just stay out of the way." And she replies back, okay, just like Eeyore. I watched that video and my heart sinks. That devastating Eeyore voice, we've all heard it from our kids where we couldn't be there for them, and we see it and we know it and we're devastated by it. And we have that inner critic that doesn't want to let us off the hook. Well, welcome back. Today I'm going to help you, as all my videos do, help you move from emotional misery, because those are miserable moments when we remember them, to emotional mastery. And really the only way I know how to do it, one of the keys to move from emotional misery to emotional mastery is truth. We have to be willing to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And obviously, we all adore our kids, and we don't want to make mistakes, but we will. We will make mistakes. We will hurt our children. And this was a prime example of where I was perfectly imperfect and left my daughter hurt, which shamed, and the rest of her life, like, I know now that I do this, I know the consequences the rest of her life moments like that will have on her. And it's why I share my story. It's why I share all of this, because my hope is we all recognize we're perfectly imperfect, that we will do these things no matter what, in part because we're human, and parenting and life itself is an overwhelming job. We can't get it right, and it's okay. So today I'm going to share with you what I call the 3 R's and the 3 C's to deal with that inner critic. So maybe if you're watching old movies, old pictures, or you just have old memories of the way you parented or the way you acted in a relationship, maybe in a friendship, maybe at work, maybe there's an addiction, maybe there's something in your life. You have emotional misery about something in your life, and it's the inner critic in you. You're just destroying yourself. Well, this is for you. I want to help you out of that. So let's start with the first part of this, the 3 R's. The 3 R's are remove, remedy, and recognize. And the remove is remove the mantras. What happens is when we have an inner critic, there are certain mantras, certain things we say to ourselves over and over and over. What are you thinking? I'm so stupid. Why did I do that? They are these self-shaming, self-victimizing, humiliating, degrading, denouncing mantras, phrases, sentences that we belittle ourselves with. They are things that we learned. They were, almost always, they are the parent that our parents said those things to us. What are you thinking? Come on, you're smarter than that, right? Did you have a parent who talked to you that way? What did your parents say? So first, make a list of all those mantras. Now, if you're not aware, if you've been detached, then my suggestion is over the next week, anytime you make a mistake, pay attention to what you say to yourself. Write it down. You're going to see there's, in many cases, nearly 100 different mantras we all have of the ways we belittle ourselves. Now, for most, there's going to be 3 to 5 that we use all the time. All right, those are the most impactful. And these mantras are why we are the way we are. This is the shame that was placed into it, just like my daughter. Just like I did the beautiful little Caroline, and that, God, her voice was just golden at that age. Like, they're those kids, like, she should have been on TV with it. She should have done voiceovers. It was like that perfect voice, just buttery, sweet, almost Southern, like, just perfect, and I just cut it. And so I don't know. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes as a parent. She may not remember this one, but there are things I said to my children that they will then use against themselves, and you do it too. And that's why one of the main ways we become who we are. So that's the first step, is remove the mantras, make a record of them. The second is remedy the problem. How we do that is, once you've made your list of the mantras, is you're going to give the pain back to them. So if my daughter was here, I would suggest to her, look, go through childhood. Think of all the times I shamed you like that. Make a list of all those mantras. How do you shame yourself now with those same phrases I used? Or maybe in the moment, like with my dad, I would think about arguing or standing up for myself, but I was like, oh, what's the point? Because I knew it'd go nowhere. So that's a mantra I made. Those weren't his words. I made those for myself, but it was born out of knowing that my father would never have a discussion with me. So, what are the ones you made up? What are the ones you heard? Give those back to your parents. It could be brothers and sisters, it could be coaches, it could be priests, it could be school teachers. But make a list of all the mantras and give them back. The third R is recognize yourself. Now that we've cleared away the misery, the emotional misery from the past, it's time to replace it and bring in who we really are, our authenticity, and the best version of ourselves. And the way we do that is we recognize ourselves. And to do that, my suggestion is to make a gratitude and accomplishment list. Gratitude for all the wonderful things you have in your life. Gratitude for all the wonderful things that you are. Here's and for some of you, I know this is tough. And it was like this woman the other day commented on one of my posts where I talked about, starting with affirmation. She goes, what if you don't like anything about yourself? And my response to her was, well, become willing to like things about yourself. And as I told her, I said, let me give you an example. What about this? I'm willing to like myself because I ask questions of somebody like Kenny so I can learn how to love myself. So do you see, here was a person who's saying, I don't like anything about myself, but she's taking an action to learn how. Well, that's commendable. That's something to have gratitude for yourself. And that's an accomplishment. Like, she should really reward herself for that. Now, the problem is she was probably shamed so severely, she wasn't allowed to have gratitude for herself or recognize her accomplishments. And it may be true for you too. So if you're in that boat where you're like, God, there's nothing I like about myself, there's nothing I'm grateful for, pause. That's not true. That's a mantra that was placed into you that needs to be given back. So the first step would be take a step back, recognize that's a mantra, give it back to whoever gave it to you. And maybe start with, if I could never think or feel those mantras again, what would I recognize and be grateful for? What would I recognize that I've accomplished? And make a list of those. Now, my suggestion is 3 a day. 3 things you're grateful for about who you are as a person, and 3 things you accomplished. And I suggest do the accomplishments at night. That's the best time to do it. All right? So those are your 3 R's. Remove the mantras, remedy the problem, recognize yourself. Now, let's move on to the 3 C's, which are confirm your worth, connect with your abilities, and clarity. All right? So to confirm your worth, when we get shamed, like what I did to my daughters, I sent her the message very directly, you have no worth. Your needs and wants don't matter because only your father, I'm the God right now. I'm practicing my golf swing, and so you don't matter. It's just the truth. That's where I was. All that I cared about was my golf swing. I did not care about my daughter in that moment. Now, does that mean I don't care about my daughter? No. It means I was selfish and self-absorbed. And we all have moments like that. It doesn't make me a bad person. All of us will do that. We get hyper-focused on something. That can be good. Now, in that moment, if I were a perfect parent, I would have paused, I would have gotten down at her level, and I'd say, honey, I would love to do that. But in this moment, not right now. Do you mind if I do a few more of these? And once I get that figured out, then, of course, the two of us can do it. Now, had I been a perfect human being, that's what I would have done. I would have acknowledged her needs and wants. I would have talked to her and negotiated and set up a way to meet her needs and wants. But because I'm perfectly imperfect, I wasn't able to do that. And my parents weren't able to do that with me. It's part of why I reacted that way with her. And the same thing is true for you. And so, confirm your worth. Make a list of your needs and wants. Think through all the times as a child you asked for your needs and wants, and they were rebuffed, just like I did to my daughter. And now put a plan in place to confirm your worth to yourself. You deserve those needs and wants. My daughter deserves to hang out with her dad and play golf in the house and destroy the carpet with a golf club. You know, she gets to do that too. And if she were here, I'd say, let's do it right now. You didn't get to then, or I don't know, I'd figure something out. Maybe she'd rather do something else now that she's older. But the point is if she were sitting here now that I've grown and know more, I would say, what needs and wants do you have? You know, let's go do something that meets it, and do the same for yourself, okay? The next C is connect with your abilities. And what happens when we shame and belittle a child like that, and they don't learn how to ask for their needs, they learn to suppress their needs and wants. They then learn that it's not okay to pursue their abilities. This is part of the worst day cycle that I talk about in my book, Your Journey to Success. When we go into shame, we learn to suppress who we are. We have to. So my daughter in that moment, like that's a worst day cycle moment for my daughter. I basically said to her indirectly, who you are as a person, your authentic self, isn't a value right now because I can't use it to my benefit. It's actually an annoyance, all right? And so what she learned in her whole, okay, her Eeyore moment was, oh, wow, if I have needs and wants, Dad yells at me. Wow. So I'm going to become a person. This is where we start to develop the false self. I'm going to learn not to ask for my needs and wants. And therefore, I'm not going to connect with my abilities as a human being. Like for me, I never knew I'm really artistic. Like now that I've done all this work, I was an athlete. I do some athletic things, but my passion is really more artistic. Those are really my abilities. But I became an athlete because I was the job in the family. I just did what everyone else was doing and what I thought I had to do. Well, the same is true for you. So, now that you have a sense of your gratitude and accomplishment list and things you like about yourself and things you've accomplished and you know your needs and wants, put a plan in place and ask yourself daily, what's the smallest thing I can do today to reconnect with my abilities? Start making a list and every day look at that and just go, what's one small thing? One small thing that I can do. Like, seriously, after I shoot this, I'm taking myself out to breakfast. Like, I am meeting my needs and wants. I love to take myself out on dates. Part of why I'm dressed up. And I like to dress well. And yes, I know it's a Sunday morning. And what are you doing all dressed up? Well, this is how I like to take myself out and connect with my abilities. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to take myself on a walk. And I might go hit some golf balls just because the weather's about perfect. And I just want the sun on my face. I don't care about the golf ball. It's about being outside. So do you see what I did? I looked at my needs and wants. I'm connecting with my abilities. I put a plan in place. Now, when we are stuck in that inner critic, it can be difficult to have such a laundry list of things to do. And that's why we look at what's the smallest thing I can do in this moment to move me in the direction of loving myself, of living in how grateful I am for my tremendous abilities, of recognizing how much I have accomplished. Because let's face it, if you're feeling like there's nothing to love about yourself, if you're feeling like you've never accomplished anything, can you see what a miracle it is that you've made it this far and you're watching this video? That's a testament to an incredible human soul that is willing to fight through immeasurable pain and emotional misery, and yet you're still here. And so you want to try and tell me that you haven't accomplished anything, that you're not worth anything? My God, you probably have more worth than anybody else, more worth than me, because you're still here and fighting when you have such a heavy inner critic. Do you see that? This is what people don't understand. When you have so much darkness in your life and so much inner critic and so much pain, and you're like, I'll never get out of it. Do you see what that means? You have the exact same amount of light. They work in parallel. It's not one without the other. The reason you're stuck in darkness right now is because you're capable of so much light. And so, it's making the choice to do one small thing in this moment. You've already done one. You're still watching this video. Okay? Number 6, clarity. Well, there's only one way I personally know. Well, that's not true. I have studied for decades, and that study has brought me a lot of clarity. And the culmination of that study has resulted in my discovering what I call the worst day cycle. And it's what I wrote about in my book. And so for us to understand the inner critic and be able to stop it, we have to know what causes it, where it came from, why do we do it, and most important, how to stop it and turn it around. Well, the full process of that, of all of it, to answer all of those questions, is in my book, Your Journey to Success. So if you want the full clarity, there's only one way to get clarity. We have to gain knowledge that we then practice skills. We develop them into skills, and once we practice them enough, they become a tool that we can use. Well, this is the way to do it. Now, you may not be in a financial position to do that, or you may not be ready to, go that far. Well, then my suggestion is go to my YouTube channel under the Worst Day Cycle playlist. There's a series of 5 videos called Reclaim Your Authentic Self by Becoming Trauma Informed. I basically go through the worst day cycle for you, all right? It's a condensed version. It's not all of it, but that at least gives you some clarity as to why, the who, what, why, where, when, and how of the inner critic. Okay? So there you go. There are your 3 R's and your 3 C's to combat the inner critic. Now, if you want to play a part in helping others become their best and move beyond their fear and their pain, then share this with them, or just share it in general so other people can move out of the worst day cycle and move away from that emotional misery into emotional mastery. If you'd like to leave me your comments, please do. And as always, enjoy the journey.